Right then, so let's get into it. So you can see my screen, right?
Yep.
Right. So yeah, so this is obviously going to be much more of a less detailed breakdown because obviously it was from kind of we already discussed a lot of things as the game was going on. But yeah, so we'll just review it. We'll go over why we did the things we did and kind of the reasoning behind it, so that we can try and replicate that and reproduce it as much as possible. So yeah, so one of the big things with Zac as well is if you are kind of unsure of where to start, one of the best things you can actually do is just stick to your AoE camps. Now the problem with Zac is until you get level 4, level 5, level 7, level 9, like that's such a huge increase in your range of your E that's really really good for you, and that allows you to gank easier. It allows you to engage fights from places where you know they don't have vision because it's cleared. So what we want to be looking to do is clear out all these AoE camps first. So wolves, chickens, krugs, and then what we can even do, because the thing is, Zac doesn't really benefit as much from blue buff anyway, due to the fact, and red buff honestly, because he doesn't really proc it that often. So because he doesn't really benefit from the buffs as much, your main goal is to get XP. Now AoE camps give a very large amount of XP, so the fact that you can reset them as soon as the first camp, you end up in a situation where they'll respawn earlier with higher XP because the average level of the game has gone up. So it's basically a way of understanding how camps work and how they grant you XP and kind of optimizing that as much as possible. Like you can even take this to an extreme. I know you've got an interest in comps sometimes, but you can even take this into an extreme as well and play something like just heavy mana users in mid lane, like a Rise or an Anivia, something like that, and you can just give them the first blue buff. So then they're gonna have a blue buff around that level 6, or they can just clear it easily. So there's a lot of different layers to it. Obviously, it's different in solo queue, but yeah. So now we end up we're bot at 250, and even though our E is quite short, they have no idea this is coming. They haven't put wards down. They're still level 2. So all of a sudden, we get a flash. We manage to pull the Kate back in, and we actually managed to kill her, and then nearly the Karma. So basically, we've managed to cheat a gank in a way and have pressure earlier than what people expect, which when you're playing these champions like Zac that people never expect, it's way easier to get those kind of easy cheesy kills in solo queue that don't necessarily harm you too much by going for them, but they have a huge kind of benefit to them.
Yep, definitely.
So yeah, so there we get red because we've got nothing else to do. We go up now, we clear these camps. Now the only downside to this is Gromp does give a lot of XP as well, and this is still level 1, but it's fine. So yeah, so we always want to try and smite Gromp as well. It's the kind of slowest camp for us to take because we don't get extra blobs from the being multiple things. Like it's just not really. It takes too long and it does a lot of damage. So we just want to smite it because the rest of these camps, they're AoE, so we don't really need the smite for any of these. So this was fine. There's probably no point even walking to that. Like, it's already pretty much over at that point. Just farm your Krugs, because now you end up in a situation where your wolves will spawn early, but your Krugs won't for a little bit longer. So, just prioritize your clear as much as possible.
Okay.
This was unfortunate that she died, but yeah, and obviously the new kind of build is this Bami Cinder into warmogs, which, as we saw, it makes you just ridiculously strong. You have plenty of HP. You end up huge, and you've got that regen passive, so in theory you never really need to base unless you've got enough gold for an item. Now this is a big mistake though, purely because we actually had information that Fiddlesticks wasn't topside. I can't remember what information we had though. We knew he wasn't in the top side. Oh, it was because of Darius back, sorry. So in this situation, you need to be able to evaluate kind of what advantages you can get in these situations. So right now, this Darius is majorly graded for the plate, to the point that Teemo is already back in lane. So what we can do now is, due to the fact that Darius isn't here, we can just start doing Herald, because if their jungler comes, we've got Teemo to move. And Darius is going to be in base, because there's no way he doesn't reset there, right? So it's kind of one of them opportunities where this is going to be one of the few times, considering Teemo is currently losing lane very hard, this is going to be one of the few times that you can actually use something from top lane in order to get an advantage that you can use elsewhere. So yeah, so we get Herald in mid, this is fine. So yeah, we should have probably just pushed the wave in first, and then dropped the Herald. We kind of do it a little bit too late. Or too early, I mean, sorry. And now we end up in a position where this Herald will still crash, but the more people that are around, every single time a plate goes, the more resistances the tower gets. So the fact that 2 plates have now been dropped means that we're going to do less to the tower as well, right? Because we've got more resistances. Same way as, for example, well, I mean, so yeah, it's just a case of we want to get, because the Herald does true damage anyway, you know? So it doesn't really take into consideration the resistances that the tower has. But yeah, so this is fine. We clear this off, and bot lane are resetting, so there weren't much we could do there. Now, obviously, your top side is available still, but the thing is, because we see Fiddlesticks here, we're not really going to get punished with that top side, so it doesn't matter if we float about a bit as long as we're here in case they start, just because we are very strong. Now, if you're...
Can we talk about the alternative instead of going right to Dragon with my team? Like, obviously, they were setting up Dragon, so that's why I wanted to, like, kind of support them. But the alternative, okay, we see Fiddle at Dragon. I could take his top side and then my top side.
I mean, yeah, right? Potentially. But the thing is, like, in that situation, you're currently ahead. And that would mean that you're not really pushing your lead as much. Like, we can do that, don't get me wrong, and it is viable. If we know, say, all 3 camps are up straight away. But in general, we don't know when this camp's up. This one's still on grey timer, so it's about a minute away. And, you know, like, we're strong enough that we can actually win a fight here. Because Darius has all the gold on his team so far. Like, or the majority of it anyway. So it's like, we would be kind of silly not to contest an objective when the majority of their gold lead is on a laner that can't get there, especially due to the fact that he doesn't have teleport. So, there's no way he gets there. So it means, you know, we can potentially go for a fight. And we've got us who are strong, and we've got MF who has probably, well, an amazing team fight ult. So, yeah. So now we just keep farming. Again, now we can contest Dragon. Like, we've cleared everything. We're very strong. So, from here. So, this was fine. Like, we did kind of go a little bit early. We don't have to jump from there either. We can go a bit further around. Although we are level 9, actually. So, it doesn't really matter as much. Obviously, she just ran because they came, but I'm fairly certain she flashed there. So we got a flash and heal. So now we can just go clear out our camps again and dive again. Now this was one of the big problems though. This was one of the first really big mistakes. Why is it not good to go for Herald here?
It's second Herald, so it's not going to give you gold or anything.
Yeah, so I mean, at this point of the game, the pushing power that's going to give you just really isn't that much. Like, we don't really get that much out of that Herald, so it's kind of a waste of time in general, to be honest. Like, we would have probably got that tower anyway without it, so... So yeah, this was... we tried to get to this fight, but nothing really came from it. So, I mean, this game did kind of divulge into a little bit of a mess. It did kind of get a little bit crazy now. But, yeah, so these are kind of the situations of... I mean, would you have gone in here if I didn't say go?
I think I would have, yeah.
Okay, that's good then. Like, it's... As long as you would, that's good news. So, like, yeah, here we're super strong right now. We've got so many items, and I mean, the majority of the kind of damage here that they can get off on us is going to be physical damage. Obviously, the Darius and the Kate are going to be the main damage dealers. Fiddles isn't really going to be able to get an ult off without us knowing, and obviously, Karma is an annoyance, and she's going to keep people alive, but we can easily still jump in and kind of get a lot off here. Yep. So... And again, we knocked the Kate and the Darius up. We managed to get a nice big shutdown. And yeah, this was, a little bit, yeah. I mean, but, we still survived. We did get, we got quite a lot of it. We managed to get a really big shutdown. So here, this was a little bit kind of, so it was okay, but it was a bit too aggressive without your team being able to get there straight away. So if we would have dragged this out a bit longer or gone a bit later, then it would have been okay, but we kind of went straight away. Now, another thing you want to look to do there as well is use your Q first before you ult, because that's going to be much better, like if you just hold on to it a little bit. Just because your flash, like especially in this game, your main thing is to try and keep MF alive and try and get her to use her ult in a big situation, which she does do, which is great. But then, they kind of turn back. We end up dying just because we kind of wasted our flash when we didn't really need to. We could have either waited. There wasn't a big rush to jump in at that point, right? Because they were always doing the dragon. So we either go earlier or a little bit later.
Okay.
But, I mean, to be fair, they played it well to get away from your E. But yeah, I mean, we still got a lot, and we got the drag. We got an ace off it. So overall, it was a good death for us. It didn't really matter that much. So, yep, this was good. As soon as that fight happened, we just instant rush Baron. Purely because, even though Baron isn't a necessity, it helps a lot. Especially if teams are full of AP, it will help a lot against those that can wave clear. But overall, it's also a big mental boost, right? And if there's no risk, now, Baron has kind of changed lately with the smite changes in the fact that it's very, very difficult and way too risky to ever flip a Baron now. The amount of times you used to be able to steal Barons with autos and, somebody else to get the Baron on either team, or I've seen a Soraka steal Baron with Q. So, there's a lot of these situations where you could just never really flip now because you both have the same level smite or the same amount of smite damage as soon as you've done your quest. So it means that now, flips are really bad. So whenever there's an opportunity where it's not a flip, you want to try it. You want to go for it. Now, as long as you've done kind of everything you need to early game, focus the right lanes for kind of getting some consistent damage towards those kind of objectives later, then that's really good for you. Okay. Because that consistent damage, if you get them ahead, it means you're going to be able to do objectives faster, you can do Baron faster, and this is one of the reasons why it's really beneficial to just kind of focus bot as much as possible, really, unless top lane is kind of a lane that is really, really difficult to actually get a gank off. Like a Teemo, I mean, he has damage, great, but doesn't really have any CC. So it's very reliant on you hitting your E, hitting your Q, and it can just be a very messy situation. Whereas if it's, say, somebody that's got a bit of CC, then maybe they can snowball the game. If, say, you had a Darius top lane, he has quite a lot in his W and his E that you can potentially snowball him, and then he would potentially be able to shut down your ADC. But in general, focusing bottom side of the map is just all around an easier way to climb. Because if you pull your ganks off successfully as well, you end up with a 3v2 most times in bot lane. Because what happens, especially on red side, so blue side this is even better. A lot of the times in low elo, people will start the bottom buff no matter what. So it won't matter, they'll just do it no matter what. And this is kind of why the path that we did on here with Zac is actually really good, because we also start pathing into bot lane to help this bot lane snowball, which, as we saw from this game, was really, really effective. Now, because of that, it's kind of you're in a situation where, because they will start bot most of the time, the enemy jungler will usually path into top side, which just leaves them wide open. So it's very easy to get 3v2s. Like, even if you're on this side as well, you can do a similar path to go into bot lane on red side too, and then you end up with plenty of 3v2s to the point that now you haven't just got one person on your team fed, you have two people on your team fed. One of those champions is going to be designed to, either heal your team, shield your team, do more damage than the enemy mid laner if you get them ahead, like if you've got something like a Zyra, or in general, they're just there to soften the blow on your other lanes. So this Teemo, for example, doesn't really matter. I mean, Mundo probably isn't the best example, but it's much easier to carry a Teemo who's feeding if you've got a fed Janna or a fed Karma or Seraphine, you know, stuff like that. Even things like Thresh or Leona, you know. So support is very good at filling that gap of what you potentially might need on your team. So you just end up with a 2-for-1. And also, it's also a mental thing, right? Because you also end up in a situation where the enemy ADC and support are going to start getting so tilted off the fact that they're getting camped. That's two people that could potentially tilt, you know? So if they start tilting, that then kind of flows into the rest of their team, and their entire team just start mental booming and just start doing really dumb things, you know. It's like their brain turns off. So this kind of a way that you could just abuse this kind of mentality, and you just climb in these lower reloads purely doing that. Hence why when I'm in these low reloads, I'll take something like Xin Zhao, and I'll just start ganking a level 2 or level 3. Just permanently. Like, it isn't a good way to play jungle, don't get me wrong. It's not how jungle should be played. But in these low reloads where people don't really understand their roles as much anyway, it's completely fine. Even more so when you're playing like a tank like Zac, who is going to be useful pretty much at all points of the game, as long as you don't int, you know?
Yep, definitely. Yeah, he scales really well as well on top of that.
Yeah. So yeah, so this was, we managed to get the tower, which was really good for us, and then they came, so we just leave. Now here, obviously, we do have warmogs, so what we could have done is just use that R to knock them away and then E'd out, because our E did actually get cancelled there. Or, you know, we just go earlier. So like here, see? Now locked cam is a little rough, but like we used E on minions here. When it's like, you know, like the rest of our team are all over the place. So it's like, that E kind of killed us.
Yeah,
so,
I figured that. I meant to click Q, I think.
Oh, okay. So yeah, just make sure you save that escape, because like I said, you've got warmogs and spirit visage. So as soon as you get out of combat, you're gonna heal back up to full, like very very fast. And then you know you're back in the fight, and you know you can kill them again, like unless they reset to their platform. So here as well, like just rush Baron. Like they've got 2 inhibs down. We see the fiddlesticks on the map. We see the Darius on the map, and there's a big wave pushing their last inhib, which means somebody has to respond to that. And the mid wave, which means we get a guaranteed objective. You know, it's going to be very hard for them to take that there. Obviously, they do get there in time. But so this is the point where, because there's a fiddles now and it's 50-50, we engage, but we want to make sure that we kind of catch them. You know, we kind of messed up quite heavily with our Q. So this kind of a case of we have to make sure we nail these kind of mechanical issues in situations like this. So one of the first big things is you don't need to use your full range of your E. You could have literally just jumped now, because what's going to happen is the Karma has to run through here, right? And the Caitlyn's going to go here. So if you just use your E in this location, you're either going to get them, or the Karma is going to get pushed back. You know, so, and then the Mundo is going to potentially do something into it, then the MF comes. So yeah, so this was just kind of a bit of a mechanical error. And then here we get plenty off. So our team fighting didn't seem too bad at some points of this game. So here we get Darius. So again, we're very, very itchy with the flash, where our instant reaction is, okay, I'm going to flash in, when we don't really need to. We don't want to just instantly flash in there, you know, we want to save that for a later point. So yeah, be careful with your summoners. Like, just don't be too quick to jump on flash.
Alright.
Like, it's still very valuable for you. So, yeah, and then obviously we just end this out. So this here, this fight, we have to peel for the Darius earlier. Peel the Darius away earlier. We kind of tunnel vision on the inhib when the Darius was here. So this is kind of just a thing of paying a little bit more attention to the map and who's actually fed, and then just kind of playing to shut that down. But then we get this dragon completely for free. I don't know why. And then we get this really big fight and we just end off it. Which, this was good. This was a good pick. So yeah, so I mean, obviously a lot of the stuff that we covered was kind of in the actual game, but yeah, this will kind of just run through of the stuff that went wrong and kind of the things to focus on. So yeah, so I'll upload this to YouTube probably later tonight. Did you have any questions or anything just before we wrap up, or?
I guess in regards to build,
Okay.
wouldn't it? I was thinking it maybe would have been more effective, or I guess it's more of a question. Would it have been more effective if we did like some anti-heal before even Spirit Visage, just to get it in there? Do you think the
Um,
Darius wouldn't have snowballed as much?
I mean, maybe we could, but the Darius was kind of already snowballing, and the thing is, we've got an MF here who an Executioners on her will literally spread to the entire team
Yeah.
when she ults. So ideally, we would have wanted her to get it, but you know, it was okay. Like we could have maybe got it a little earlier, yeah. But
And then if they had more AD, you'd have gone like Gargoyle
yeah, yeah,
instead of Spirit Visage.
yeah. Gargoyle is ridiculously good.
Okay.
It's very good.
Cool.
Yeah. So Gargoyle's like very, very far up there in terms of priority. But yeah, so I have to shoot. So
Okay.
yeah, good luck in your games, and I'll speak to you again soon.
All right, later, man. Thank
No
you
worries,
again.
man. Catch you in a bit. Bye, bye, bye.